All right, this video is three stories about cell phones. Now, in the last video, where I said, "What is it?" and it was a laser for a gun, I told some stories about finding people's cell phones, and it's never a good story, or it's never worth it. The person never says thank you. In a lot of cases, they get really pissed. So in the spot where I found the girl's phone, and the girl insisted that she lost it in Ollie's. There's a bunch of mail boxes. It's for the Summit, which is owned by High Steel, and there's a mailman that comes there, and I walk by and I know him, and I'll stop and talk to him, and he's sort of ranting. And I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "Oh," he says, "I found a cell phone." I'm like, "Oh, it wasn't good, was it?" "No, the person gave me a hard time giving it back." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Right there." And I point off to the side. I said, "I found the phone. I went home. I found it right there. I went home. I had to look it up online how to answer it. I called the girl up, and a girl answered, and then I told her I had her cell phone. She didn't want to give me a lot of information, so I told her who I was. She sort of knew me, and then she showed up at the spot, and I said, "That's where I found your phone." And then she was arguing with me, and then the girl with her says, "That's where your bag broke. You set everything down." And I'm like, I'm dealing with an idiot. All right, so I'm I'm standing there telling the mailman my story. He's telling me his story, and I said to him, "I don't touch phones anymore." I said, "If they're on the parking lot of Wawa when I'm walking by, I give it to Wawa. If it's at McDonald's on that wall," and he knows all these areas because he's the mailman. I said, "I bring it into McDonald's. I don't want to know it. It's your property. It's your problem. I'm gone." So as I'm telling him, I said, "I really don't want to get robbed anymore." So I turn away from him. I say goodbye, and I walk down. I get down maybe six houses, and I look on the ground, and in the grass is an Apple III camera phone. And I'm looking at this going, is that real, or is that just like the cover? I pick it up. It's a phone. And I look up at the house, and I know that guy. And this phone is probably his kid's phone or whatever. It's somebody in the house's phone. And I know he works night shift. And he's a pain in the ass. So I go over and I ring the doorbell. I get the dogs barking. I make sure I get his dogs barking. And I know he's going to come down half asleep. And he does. And he's all upset. So I hold the cell phone up. And I go, "Is this your cell phone?" "No, it's not my cell phone." I said, "I'm really sorry I woke you up." I turned to go away. "It's my son's cell phone." "Oh, you freaking asshole." "Yeah, his last name's Bueller. Bueller." "Yeah, that's." And then the next day I'm back at the mailman. I said, "Yeah, remember that cell phone?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Bueller down the street there. He knows who he is." He goes, "You're kidding." I go, "No, it was a three-camera Apple phone, and it just had come out." And I said, "It's in the grass. It's no scratches on it. It's brand new." The kid went to run to get on the bus in the morning, and he dropped the phone in the grass, and I spotted it. And then I told him about the guy saying, "That's not my cell phone." I said, "I'm really sorry. I go to what? It's my son's cell phone." "No, that cell phone is your son's. It's also your freaking problem. It's your cell phone. Don't give me, well, that's not mine. You woke me up." "All right, I'm really sorry I woke you up." Go to turn. "That's my son's cell phone." Douchebag. That's the last one I found. And I'm telling you, well, I have found other ones like on the McDonald's wall. I go inside with those. I don't get involved. Right? So now the next cell phone story. This is why I don't touch them. I'm doing a shortcut behind between the Mennonite school and the little shopping mall. And as I'm walking, I see off in the distance there's a cell phone on the driveway. I pick it up, and it's not a cheap phone. It's a Samsung Galaxy. Well, anyway, it's a good phone. No scratches on it, no broken screen. And I go inside, and there's several stores in there. There used to be Next to New in there. I think they moved down. Well, anyway, went in the first store, and the girl's looking. I said, "Is this your phone?" "No." All right, I go down. The next upstairs was the exercise place. So I walk in there, And I go to the desk. I said, do you recognize this cell phone? No. I said, all right. Uh, and then the girl says, let me look at it. Or the guy says, let me look at it. He's going through, he's looking at the pictures. I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm checking out the pictures in the phone. I said, dude, I asked you, is that your phone? Do you know whose phone it is? Give me the phone back. So he gives it back to me. Now I go in the next room. There's a spin class. And I walk up, and the guy's giving me the, you have to wait till we're finished. I'm like, no, I don't. I just hold the phone up. I'm just shouting over him, is this anybody's cell phone? And everybody shakes their head. And I left. I didn't care. You know, I told you, Ricky Gervais. I don't care anymore. So I'm walking out. The guy's like really pissed that I interrupted his spin class. Oh my God. So I got out. I went downstairs next to the next store over. See, upstairs was the exercise place, which later on became the condos for the Chinese people that don't come here anymore because the Mennonites made them persona non gratas. So anyway, we're down to the next one. I go in the store, and I'm talking to the girl, and I hold the phone up. I say, this your phone? She said, it looks like my phone. I said, can you check your purse? So she's looking, she's digging all through the purse like a madman for her phone. I'm holding her freaking phone, right? And you think it's funny? When somebody loses something, they become an absolute jerk. And I found wallets with the money still in it, hundreds of dollars, and then the person counts the money in front of me while looking at me like I stole a wallet from them. I tell them exactly where I found the wallet. One time, I'm bicycle riding along, and I see this old rickety lady get out of her car, and she's going to go in the pharmacy. And I see something come down, hit her foot, and go under the car. So I pull the bike off to the side, and I crawl under the car, and there's her wallet. So I go inside, and I said, look, I found this wallet outside. I saw the woman drop it. She came in here. Can you announce her name over the speaker? So the woman does. Please come to the woman's old, rickety, clueless. So finally I said, that's the woman there. And I go up to her. And then she's like giving me the, you know, the up and down. I said, didn't you hear your name on the PA system? No. I said, I found the wallet. The first thing I did was come in and give it to the girl in the front and tell her you were somewhere in the store. This is your wallet. When you got out of the car, it fell, hit your foot, and went under the car. I said, I got to get back outside. My bicycle's out there, and it's worth more than you are. And I just turned around and left. I was pissed. Woman's like, where did you find that wallet? Lady, I'm telling you the story. Shut up and listen. So that's another aggravating thing. I used to do wallets all the time, right? Now, the one phone that was the most stupidest, coming out of Wawa, there's a driveway that comes out. And people come out of there, and sometimes they leave the cell phone on top of the car. They're doing something, whether they're pumping gas, they leave their wallet or the cell phone on top of the car, and then they drive off, it falls off. I find it, and I waste my day. So I found it was a Galaxy, maybe 3 way back. It's in the street, and it's fully charged. I hit it a couple times, and it comes up with the screensaver, the screen on the front, is this minister with a cross behind him, and I'm going, this is a minister's phone. So I take the phone home, and I start calling the parishioners. None of them want to get involved. Oh, yeah, that's my minister. I'm not getting involved. Thank you. Next number. He had, say, 300 parishioners, all right? I went down to 60 of them. And finally, I got a guy that like, oh, I know who that is. And I go to his church and the whole thing. And he tells me the name of the hotel I have to go to. And it's in the area. But in my area, there's 2 hotels with the same sort of name. And he says the wrong one. So I go in with the phone in the wrong hotel with the same name. And I'm telling the girl, I said, no, I just got off the phone with this guy. And he's one of the parishioners for the minister. And I hit the phone. I said, this is the minister here. And I'm telling her the whole story. She says, you know, she says, the hotel up the hill there has a name very similar to ours. I'm going, yeah, that's what he did to me. He gave me the wrong freaking name. It's slightly off. Anyway, so I go walking up the hill, and it's a hot day. I'm not happy. I go in the hotel, and I'm telling the girl at the desk, and she calls security on me. And I'm standing there. I'm standing my ground. I'm like, no, no. This guy told me to come here to meet his wife, to give her the phone, and on the way home, she's going to drop it off to the minister. This is the story. I'm going to meet the guy's wife, and I go in there, I'm telling her, I'm describing. The woman says, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. I said, look, this isn't my phone. I showed her my phone. I said, look, I find phones all the time. It's always a mistake to return them. I got the security woman or whatever it was telling me not to raise my voice. I'm starting to get annoyed. So I said, wait, I can call him back. I call him back, and I go, you talk to the woman at the thing. So he hands it to the manager of the hotel, and what the woman gets out of him is his wife doesn't work there. His girlfriend works there, and they've been seeing each other at church. This is the real story. So he tells me it's his wife. Give her the phone, and she's going to bring it to the minister. See, this is where the two of them meet up. But the security guard and the manager got the real story out of them. And then I just said, thanks a lot. I said, so they knew who to call down. They called the girl down. She was all embarrassed. I said, look, I hit the button. I show him. I said, that's your minister, right? Yeah. I said, so-and-so told me that you would take the, she says, yeah, I can drop the phone off on the way home. This is the stuff I go through. And I keep telling you these amazing stories. And like I said, I'm talking to the mailman, and the two of us are vowing never to touch another phone again. I'm standing there, and I can tell you it's the corner of Greenland Drive and South Oak. It's just near the. I did a video where I cleaned that street, and I'm standing there there's mailboxes there with the mailman, and he's starting to tell me his. I find them all the time. It's never a good idea to return them. And I'm like, yeah, I found the same thing. So like I said, I walk away from him. I go about 6 houses, and there's one on the grass. Oh, that's not my phone. I'm really sorry I woke you up. It's my son's phone. Just say, yeah, that's my son's phone. Thank you for finding it. Thank you for giving it back to him. Nah, you woke me up. Yeah, I woke you up. And it wasn't your phone, but it's your son's phone. This is the convoluted logic I get from people that I'm actually helping. And it's not just here. It was in Jersey. The woman with the wallet under the car was a jerk. And in that same area there, I'm bicycling along, and in the middle of the street, there's a checkbook. You know the big checkbook, the ledgers, the real big ones. They're like a loose leaf book. This thing's in the middle of the street with a pen stuck in it, or a pen in on the spring or whatever it was. I look at him and go, holy shit, this is a guy's checkbook. So I pull the bike off to the side, and there's a guy watering his lawn. And I go over to him, I show him the checkbook. He goes, oh, that's that guy over here. He's a real a-hole. I said, I'm going to take care of him. So I ring the doorbell, and I look over at the guy watering the lawn. I said, this is going to be good. So I'm pounding, I'm doing the cop pound on the door, and I see this guy through the door window, and he's wrapping a towel around himself, and he's all upset, and he comes to the door. I said, hey, is this your checkbook? Yeah, how'd you get that? I said, maybe you were writing a check outside for somebody on the car, and then your wife drove off with the car? Is that possible? And he goes, yeah, I was writing a check out for the paper boy, and then my wife took the car. I said, yeah, she drove away with the checkbook on the roof of the car. It fell off in the middle of the street over there. I found it. I talked to your neighbor next door. He says you're an asshole. And the guy just stared at me. I said, have a nice day. And I walked away. I got on my bicycle, drove away. But all the wallets I ever found, the people always count the money in front of me. Like I took out my reward. None of them ever gave me a reward, right? And they never say thank you. They're just like, they're dazed. How did that check book get down the middle of the street? How did I lose my wallet? Where did he find it? Yeah. See, when I see a wallet, I'm going to tell you right now what I do. I walk by and I don't pick it up. I don't care anymore. Rick Gervais. I just don't care anymore. Now, I want to tell you a story. I had a minister, this is Edward Mansley, and me, and the two guys, I can say their names, they're both dead now. Me, Donald, and Frankie are out on a long walk on a Sunday. And what happens is Frankie would get grounded because he was a fathead. His mother would ground him for 3 weeks, and he would play with me because I was the only kid in the neighborhood that knew what the hell he was talking about. And my mother would say to me, he's just using you. As soon as his time comes up for being grounded, he'll be back. I said, I really don't care. I said, he knows stuff that I know and the other idiots don't know in the neighborhood. So I'd hang out with him. Well, we go for a long walk because Frankie's grounded. He can't go down to, anyway, he can't go to where he always goes. And we're walking along. And I look down in the street, and there's a wallet. And I pick it up, and right away, Donald, he's dead now. He was a thief. He wanted to split the money up that was in the wallet. But Frankie, being bigger than both of us, he took the wallet from me, and he held on to it, and he wasn't going to let it go. So we get the wallet home, and there was hundreds of dollars in the wallet. It was a woman's wallet. It had her wedding ring and her engagement ring in it. In one of the, anyway, the wedding ring, engagement ring, credit cards, personal pictures. So I go through the wallet and I find a card, and I call, and it was a service. It was a service station down in Kearney, and I called the guy and I said, "Does anybody in your family lose a wallet?" I said the name. He goes, "Yeah, that's my wife. The daughter threw it out of the car," and that made absolute sense. And he said exactly where the daughter threw it out. The wife turned around and drove back, and there were a lot of leaves in the road, and she had people going through the leaves. But I had come the other way. As soon as we found the wallet, we turned around and went back. So before she could come and pick up her wallet that was in the street, I had picked it up. So anyway, the guy shows up at my house, and he's greasy and dirty. And after he left, my mother goes, "I don't think that was really the owner of the wallet." I'm like, "No," I said. I called him. I'd already asked him questions. He answered it correctly, where the wallet would have been lost and the whole thing. So he kept trying to give me a reward. And the three of us, he was going to give 3 of us a reward, but I found the wallet. So anyway, my mother kept giving him the money back. And then finally he threw the money in the door of the house and left. And then my mother made the kid, Frankie, run back out there and give him back. He gave us $20 each. So anyway, he drives off. There is no reward. So the next Sunday, I'm at church, and I asked the minister, "What would you do in a case like that?" He says, "I'd keep the money. I take the wallet open, take the money out, and put the wallet in the mailbox." And I was horrified. I was absolutely horrified. And then he came to me, Father Edward Mansley, and he says, "That was the wrong answer. I'm really sorry. He goes, I would do that, but that's not the right thing to do." Because I told him what I did, and my mother wouldn't allow me to accept the reward. So here's how it ended up. Everybody was telling my mother that I should have been able to keep the $20. Even the other idiots got 20 each, but that 20. So my mother went to her wallet and gave me the $20. So anyway, I can tell you what I bought. I bought a Tyco racing car, a little racing car, a really good racing car. So anyway, months go by, and my father's got a problem with his front brakes. They're not working right. And the kid keeps repacking the wheel. And I said to my father, "Look," I said, "that brake cylinder is not working." "Well, I don't know where else to take the car." And I said, "Look, I know where to take the car." So I tell my father, drive me in the car, and I said, "This is the guy I found the wallet." Yeah, be quiet. Let me do the talking. I walk in. This guy comes out all greasy, and he looks at me. I said, "You remember me?" He goes, "Yeah, you found the wallet." I said, "We have a problem with our car." I said, the guy keeps repacking the front wheel bearing. My father has no brakes. He keeps on the one side. He keeps failing at the inspection. Guy goes, I'll take care of it. So he puts the car up on the rack, and he's going through it with my father. He took it. He rebuilt all three. Back in those days, there was no calipers. All three pistons. They call them pistons. Brake piston assemblies, whatever you'd call them. He rehoned them. He put new gaskets in them, O-rings, and the whole thing. And father was like, "This is really good." And he gave my father a really big discount. And I shook his hand. I said, "Thank you." I said, "You're one of the few people that ever come through for any of us." And he goes, "Well, that was a really good thing." He says, "It wasn't the money. It was the engagement ring and the wedding ring that the wife was really upset about." I said, "Well, it's just a way of time. I come along. I'm not going to leave that wallet in the gutter." Back then. Now I don't care how much money's in that wallet. I don't touch it because, I really hate people counting the money in front of me. This guy was totally different. I talked to him over the phone. He knew I found the wallet. And I mentioned the 2 rings and the credit cards. And my mother's rifling through she's got 3 credit cards. You're going through someone's personal property. I said, I only looked through the wallet to get a name. And there were several cards for that service station. I said, this is the woman's boyfriend or whatever works here, because there wasn't just one of these cards. There was like a pouch, 4 business cards. And then when I called the guy, I made him tell me what's going on over there. Well, my wife went for a ride. The kid threw the wallet out. I said, you're it. You're the person. Can you tell me where? Yeah, down in Lyndhurst. And he says, they're going through the leaves down there right now. I said, well, call them back and tell them that I have the wallet. And then he came to my house and the whole thing. But it was so amazing. Months later, hey, you remember me? And the guy goes, yeah. But it was so funny. The minister told me, Father Edward Mansley, he's dead now. He said to me, oh, you just take the money out of the wallet and put the wallet in the mailbox. In the old days, we had these mailboxes. I said, oh, really? Like I said, my mother wouldn't even let me keep the $20 reward. But my mother always had big ideals when it was someone else's money. You know what I mean? Oh, give the guy back the money. He's not giving my mother the $20. He's giving me the money. And she thought that was too much money for me. And in the end, she ended up having given me the $20 for the reward because she screwed up. But we got money back as a family when the guy did the brakes for my father. It had a happy ending. But if my father, I don't know where to take the car now that the one guy can't fix it. I said, he's not fixing the brakes. He kept repacking the wheel bearing. I said to my father, the kid's retarded. And my father, well, he's just starting out. I said, no, he's retarded. The brakes don't work. You don't keep repacking the brakes. And my father kept paying him for repacking the wheel bearing. And that's when I started doing more repairs on cars. I was young at the time. I was still playing with Tyco racing cars. But I can tell you these stories, and tomorrow I'll go buy another cell phone on the ground. And I do go by them, and I'm like, I kick them out of the way. I kick them into the grass, and people lose them. And people that lose cell phones, they're scatterbrains. I never found, except that guy with the, I told you the last one, the Razor phone. He knew he dropped it. He couldn't find it. And I come along, and I'm looking at the snow, and I'm like, maybe it's 2 kids wrestled there. And then I'm noticing skid marks back towards the car. And he told me he went running out and he fell and he had trouble getting up. It all matched, And I'm like, and he made up a card that it said John on the envelope. And he's going, well, you really deserve it. This is an expensive phone, and you're honest enough, and you called me like right away. And that phone was a pain in the ass because it had been on all night and it wanted to shut off. And I saw Casa on it. Casa, that's house, that's home. I knew the kid was Hispanic by the other names. And he's like, well, this is weird. My phone's calling me. I said, no, I got your phone. Oh, you do? And I'm telling him I lived the next street down. I went by coming back from the mailbox. I said, I'll be right up there. And by the time I got there, he had an envelope with a card. It was pretty funny. But sometimes, and I wouldn't take a reward from the guy. At that time, I was doing pretty good with the booklets, selling booklets. I thought I was climbing to the top. Little did I know the economy was going to crash. I think that's it. All right, that's it. Now that's stories for people that like stories. And I know some people, well, I want to see radios. I don't want to hear any more of your stories.